1:54 in the morning, a 19-year-old college student was walking alone through the darkness of rural Minnesota. He was not running from anyone. He was not injured. And according to him, he was only a short distance away from safety. But within minutes, he would vanish without leaving behind a single clear answer about what happened. His name was Brandon Swanson, and his disappearance remains one of the most unsettling missing person cases in the United States. On the night of May 13, 2008, Brandon had just finished celebrating the end of his first year at Minnesota West Community and Technical College. Like many students, he spent the evening with friends before deciding it was time to head home. The drive should have been simple. A familiar route. A normal night. Something that would be forgotten by the next morning. But somewhere along the way, Brandon made a wrong turn. While driving on unfamiliar gravel roads, his car left the road and ended up in a ditch. The accident itself was not severe. The vehicle was still intact. Brandon was not seriously hurt. To him, it seemed like a small problem. A problem that could easily be solved. So he called his parents. His father, Brandon Swanson, answered the phone. Brandon explained what had happened and told him that he needed a ride. At first, there was nothing unusual about the conversation. A son calling his parents for help. A father trying to figure out where he was. But there was one problem. Brandon did not actually know his exact location. In the darkness, surrounded by fields and country roads, he believed he was much closer to the town of Lind than he really was. His parents got into their car and began searching. They drove along roads trying to match the descriptions Brandon was giving them. Meanwhile, Brandon decided he would walk toward what he believed were the lights of the nearby town. He stayed on the phone with his parents while walking. For nearly an hour, they listened as their son described his surroundings. The conversation was calm. At times, Brandon sounded confident. He believed he knew where he was going. But the farther he walked, the more confusing the situation became. The roads did not match. The landmarks did not make sense. The darkness made it almost impossible to understand the landscape around him. His parents kept telling him the same thing. Stay where you are. Wait for us. But Brandon believed he was close. He thought he could reach the town faster by continuing forward. And then, after 47 minutes on the phone, something happened. Without warning, Brandon suddenly shouted, "Oh, shit." Those were the last words anyone ever heard from him. The phone remained connected briefly. His parents called his name. They waited for a response. Nothing. Then the call ended. At that moment, a simple search for a stranded driver became a mystery that investigators would struggle with for years. Because Brandon had not disappeared days earlier. He had not vanished without contact. His parents had been speaking with him moments before he was gone. And yet, when search teams arrived, there was no sign of him. No clear trail. No obvious explanation. Only a dark landscape filled with unanswered questions. Where exactly was Brandon walking? What did he see in those final moments? And what caused him to suddenly stop responding? To understand why this case remains unsolved, we need to look closer at the investigation that followed. Because what search teams discovered would make the mystery even harder to explain. When the search for Brandon Swanson began, investigators faced a difficult problem. They knew the exact moment he disappeared. They knew the last place he was believed to have been. And they knew he had been walking through the area just minutes before. But they did not know where he actually was. That single mistake would become one of the biggest obstacles in the entire investigation. Brandon believed he was near the town of Lind, Minnesota. But after authorities analyzed the area, they discovered something important. He had most likely been several miles away from where he thought he was. The darkness had completely changed his perception of his surroundings. Roads that seemed familiar were not the roads he thought they were. Lights in the distance were not necessarily from the town he believed he was approaching. The landscape had created an illusion. And somewhere inside that confusion, Brandon disappeared. Search teams immediately began looking for him. Volunteers joined law enforcement. Helicopters scanned the area. Dogs searched fields and roads. Investigators examined possible routes Brandon could have taken. But despite the enormous effort, nothing gave them a clear answer. No confirmed footprints. No personal belongings. No evidence that explained what happened after the phone call ended. The case became even more frustrating because Brandon had not simply disappeared without any information. His final conversation created a timeline. It created clues. But those clues seemed to lead investigators in different directions. One of the biggest questions was the meaning behind Brandon's final words. When he suddenly shouted, "Oh, shit," what had he discovered? Some believe he may have fallen into an area that was difficult to escape from. Others believe he may have encountered something unexpected while walking. Some theories suggest he could have become disoriented and continued moving away from the search area. But without physical evidence, none of these explanations can be confirmed. Years passed. The investigation continued. Brandon's family never stopped searching for answers. They continued hoping that someday, someone would discover the missing piece of the puzzle. Then, more than a decade later, new technology gave investigators another opportunity. Modern forensic methods allowed authorities to examine the case again. Search techniques improved. Information was reviewed. Possible locations were reconsidered. But even with advances in technology, the mystery remained. No definitive explanation was found. The case of Brandon Swanson became one of those rare mysteries where the unanswered questions are almost as important as the facts themselves. A young man made one wrong turn. A vehicle was left behind. A phone call captured the final moments before his disappearance. And then, silence. Perhaps the most disturbing part of this case is how ordinary the beginning was. Brandon was not entering a dangerous situation. He was simply trying to get home. He called the people who loved him. He believed he would be rescued. For almost an hour, his parents were right there with him, even though they were physically miles away. And then, in a single moment, everything changed. More than 15 years later, Brandon Swanson has never been found. His family still does not know exactly what happened during those final minutes. Investigators still do not have a confirmed answer. And the question that has followed this case from the beginning remains the same. How does someone disappear while talking on the phone with the people searching for him? Was it a tragic accident caused by the darkness and unfamiliar terrain? Did something unexpected happen along the way? Or is there a piece of this story that has never been discovered? Until that answer is found, the disappearance of Brandon Swanson remains one of America's most haunting mysteries. A case where the final words were heard. But the final moments were never truly understood.